Hello and welcome to Breakfast All Day. I'm Matt here with Alonso and Christy. I'm thinking of ending things. I mean, that's the movie.
It
that
is.
Alonso is going to describe for us, or at least
man.
attempt to, because
Yeah.
it's written by Charlie Kaufman, and who knows what the fuck is going on in any of his movies anytime.
Yeah, I will take as best a stab of it as I can. A young woman played by Jessie Buckley and her boyfriend, played by Jesse Plemons, travel through the snow to the farm where his parents live. She tells us in voiceover that she's thinking of ending things with him. He might be able to hear that voiceover. It's never entirely sure. The parents are played by Toni, Collette, and David Thewlis. Time seems to go backward and forward, and people's backstories seem to be changing, and reference points seem to be happening in things that are different people's lives. And Jessie Buckley is getting phone calls from herself to herself. This is the kind of movie where you not only ask, who is the protagonist, but you also ask, who is the protagonist? There's a lot going on here.
I feel like I need to see this again. I feel like I can't.
Oh, for sure.
I can't even talk about it in a way that will make any sense.
Yeah, this is absolutely a
like
first viewing discussion.
It's like Mulholland Drive in that regard. And I walked out of it kind of feeling like I did walking out of Mulholland Drive, where I was like, I don't know that I know what I just saw, you know? And I feel like I need to go into it with at least a vague game plan or an idea, and yet like the ambiguity is what is so exciting about him, right? So
exactly.
Matt mentioned that he wrote it. Charlie Kaufman also directed this.
Yes.
And I wonder for you, Alonso, because I know how much you love Synecdoche, New York.
Yes.
Where does this fall by comparison for you?
I mean, the first time I saw Synecdoche, New York, I didn't talk for 10 minutes. I was so like flabbergasted by it, and I wish.
Holy shit.
Because I couldn't begin to wrap my head around what I had just seen. There was so much going on there and so many different levels to it. And I believe me, when we talk about how much I miss seeing things in the theater, I would have loved to have seen this for the first time on the big screen. So it didn't have that exact same impact on me. But as soon as it was over, I was like, I need to see this at least another 3 times. And the thing is, like, you know, I remember for a while that it was very popular. I think it was like our friend Andy Klein who would write these long pieces on Salon where he would sort of explain what Mulholland Drive was about or what Memento was about. Or like he would like really try to break down, well, this means this, and this is a reference to that thing. It's other scene that you might think wasn't connected, but it was. Part of me wants to sort of understand this movie in that way, and part of me just wants to take it at its level. Like, I just did an episode of another podcast I do called A Film and a Movie, where we talked about one of my favorite films of all time, Jacques Rivette's Celine and Julie Go Boating, which is currently streaming on Criterion Channel. And part of what is so great about that movie is that it gives itself over to dreamlike logic in a way that you don't really need or want to sort of try and make logical sense of the whole thing. And so this one, I kind of like the unfolding of it and the unraveling of it, and the way that like A becomes B becomes C, and then maybe A again, and we'll refer to things later that didn't happen to those characters with somebody else, but now they did. And you know, at one point, like literally in the middle of a conversation, another actress is playing Jessie Buckley's role, and then it becomes Jessie Buckley again.
So I had to rewind it. I rewound it. I'm like, wait, did I just see that? Wait, and she's back.
So it's like, you know, but ultimately, it's like I don't really care to parse this. I just let it kind of go over me, and like, yes, there's references to, you know, David Foster Wallace and John Cassavetes and all these different artists, and you know, like poets and painters, and you know, I think that Kaufman is working through his own stuff, and I haven't read his novel yet, which I really need to do, that came out this summer. But I just think the experience of it is so fascinating that if you can turn off that part of your brain that's trying to like connect the dots and be Hercule Poirot and solve this thing at the end and just let it go with what it is, I just think it's such exciting filmmaking on that level.
A lot of it is the same kinds of themes that he always explores. You know, if you look at Adaptation or Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, like he's interested in the notion of identity and the sense of self and the self that you present to the world and how that's a constantly evolving thing. You see the physical manifestations of that throughout this film in terms of like Jessie Buckley's character. Her name keeps changing. What she does for a living keeps changing. Is she a poet? Is she a painter? Is she a physicist? You know, and then the stories that Jesse Plemons' character has to tell about living in this farmhouse and what happened in the basement and what the dog's name is and little things like that. It's like the putting on a play version of your sense of yourself rather for the world and the insecurity that drives that kind of demonstrative kind of instinct, you know, and I'm making it sound like it's totally inaccessible. And I think if you are not already on his wavelength or willing to get on his wavelength, this is not the movie that's going to put you.
No. You will find it a very frustrating experience. Probably
you might look at it and go, "Oh, Jesse Plemons, I loved him in Friday Night Lights. This is totally inaccessible." Or you might have seen was it called Wild Rose that Jesse Buckley was in?
I think so. Yes.
It was so great, so like thrilling, just electrifying presence on screen. And here it's everything is small and quiet and dialed down. And the first words you hear are, "I'm thinking of ending things." And you think at first that she's talking about killing herself, right? That's what I thought.
Well, that's what that phrase implies often.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you realize that that's the idea of what that phrase means changes throughout the film.
Yeah.
This was shot by Lucas Zal, who is a Polish cinematographer who shot Cold War and Ida.
Oh,
and so he creates, even those are both black and white films.
Yeah.
But he creates a starkness and like a contrast and a chilliness that adds a lot of mood.
It is snowing nonstop in this movie.
It's snowing, but like even when people are indoors, there's still like an emotional kind of distance that exists. And there is like a formality that exists within the ever fluid situation that is going on here. Jesse Plemons, as always, is really, really great. I mean, he does a lot in a very still kind of understated way. It'd be easy to overlook that as, oh, he's not really doing anything.
Yeah, no, I think the whole cast is great, and I think that when you're making this kind of movie, it's such a tightrope, and the idea of your character is so constantly changing. You know, there's not really a lot to latch onto because from scene to scene, everything about you could be totally different, and your response to things and to people and your own backstory even is not what it was before. And everybody is out there on this tightrope with Kaufman, and the four leads are just all tremendous, I think.
It's also about memory too, I think, because there are a lot of anecdotes about childhood, and it becomes increasingly muddled as to whether we're talking about Jesse Plemons' childhood or Jesse Buckley's childhood. And whose house are we in really? And whose parents are they really? And whose
he cast two people named Jesse.
Jesse B. Jesse P. And then when they make a stop for ice cream. This is not a spoiler. It's like an image that you see and emotional stuff. And like, whose memory is that? Whose childhood memory is that? And does it matter? Anyway, again, this all sounds like totally fucking highfalutin and like, film theory. And if you need things to make sense and have like tidy endings that are satisfying.
Yeah, highfalutin is not a bad thing necessarily, but it is a thing. And so,
it's a thing here.
if this just sounds like a movie that's going to make you itch, then don't watch it. It's fine. Like, not every movie is for everybody. But if you are down for these sort of like Borges's, mirror puzzle box, whatever that Kaufman wants to do, like, he's doing it real well and really interestingly. And I will need many more viewings of this to really kind of delve deeper into what's going on. But like, there's a recurring thing where, someone will claim a work of art as their own, and then you find out that it isn't, and even to like a movie review that happens at one point in the film. Like, there's just a lot to unpack here, and I'm excited about continuing to unpack it, but even after one go, I'm like, I've seen something. This was something,
But is that something that you liked?
It is absolutely, yeah. I mean, I like his brand of kind of play, intellectual play with this sort of thing, and I really like the films he directed. I think Synecdoche, New York is one of the great American films of the last 30 years. I liked Anomalisa a lot, and I like this one a lot. And like my score is literally just based on this is what I think after one viewing. Like check back in with me later.
Okay, well, what is your score then?
I'm going to say an 8.2 for now.
Okay, I'll say 7.8.
Okay. All right.
It's kind of changing as I talk to you because again, like I know that I appreciate what I saw and I know that I don't know what I saw and I appreciate that too. Yeah. And it's long too. It's 2 hours and 14 minutes long. So I look forward. Maybe we can do Alonso. Maybe Matt might want to try and dip his toe into this as well. But like maybe we can come back in a few weeks when folks have seen it.
That would be fun.
And revisit it.
And I'll say this, like this is the thing that comes up a lot in film criticism, where it's like why bother reviewing a movie that's just like car chases and explosions, and why can't people just enjoy that? And it's like there's good versions of that, and there's shitty versions of that. And in the same way, a movie that is this sort of like obtuse and enigmatic and arty, there are good versions of that and there are shitty versions of that. I'm not loving this just because it is so aggressively an art film. I'm loving it because it's a good version of that thing.
It is beautiful and the performances are gripping and it's constantly surprising, and I really appreciate all that about it. So
yeah, like if you're on its wavelength, it will keep you on the edge of your seat just because you don't know what's coming up next.
You really don't. You gotta pay attention, and it's kind of like a low key, kind of like subtle dreamlike mood, but you gotta pay attention because as you pointed out, Alonso, stuff changes very quickly.
Yeah. Next time we talk about this, I'll have a whole adjunct thought about why there's a Robert Zemeckis movie in this reference in this movie, but we'll discuss that at another time.
I laughed out loud at that. That was really, really great. Okay. Our number is an 8.
Yes.
And if this is your cup of tea, this will be your cup of tea.
Boy, howdy. Yes. Streaming on Netflix right now as we speak. So thanks for watching. Like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us at BeFastAllDay on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And please check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. Lots of exclusive goodies for our subscribers, including right now recaps of HBO's The Vow and Lovecraft Country. See you next time. Bye.